Hello and welcome to the 3-step tool to stopping overwhelm in its tracks. My name is Melody Robinson. I'm the founder of All Things Birth and Beyond, and I have been supporting expectant and new parents for more than 15 years on preparing for empowered transitions into parenthood. What I've discovered and learned over the 15 years from my own personal parenting journey and supporting others is that we go through many transitions along our parenting journey. So being a parent, or even preparing to become a parent, that process of transition is stressful enough as it is. But how do you cope when the day-to-day challenges show up? You know, those moments when everything is just starting to feel a little too much. You can feel yourself losing control or becoming overwhelmed, and finding a way through calmly just seems almost impossible. In these moments, having a strategy to call on that brings us back into the moment with confidence is an absolute game changer. And that's what I'm going to give you today. First of all, I'm going to introduce to you the idea of archetypes and what exactly that is. You can have a look more in your workbook that was emailed to you about the different archetypes that I'm going to be introducing you to today, and as well as some scenarios and examples of where those archetypes might show up. And there's space for you to write down a few of your own experiences and see if you can identify which archetype is at play in each of your own scenarios that you're reflecting on. So once we've had a quick touch on archetypes, I'm then going to talk you through the 3-step process, and then we're going to wrap up for the day. So I'm so grateful that you have taken the time to spend the next 10 to 15 minutes with me learning more about how to stop overwhelm. So archetypes, some of you might be familiar with these, and I certainly do much deeper work around this in the Transition to Empowered Parenthood program. Carl Jung talked about 12 examples of how we might behave without even really thinking about it. And he divided these examples into shadow archetypes and illuminated archetypes. The shadow archetypes are made up of repressed ideas, weaknesses, desires, instincts, and shortcomings. And the illuminated archetypes really are just the flip side of this, or perhaps more appropriately, the result of moving through the shadow self with conscious intent. So just really becoming aware of our behavior and the patterns that we have. So let's look at a few archetypes. If we look at the shadow archetype, we have one called the prostitute or the wounded feminine. And this is a characteristic where one wants to be accepted at any cost and is afraid of being judged. And as a consequence, she will do or say anything to fit in, even if this means compromising herself in the process. The flip side to this is your illuminated lover. The lover knows she's worthy and acts in alignment with that knowledge. She knows her words and her voice are important, and she's in charge of her own experiences and feels safe in her ability to communicate her needs. Now, you might be thinking, yeah, well, how on earth do I embody that? And it's through managing overwhelm and reflecting on action and inaction, and having awareness that really helps us to shift from this illuminated to, the shadow to the illuminated archetype. Another example is the child and the sovereign. So the child wants others to take responsibility for her life, and can be quite defensive. She might go with the status quo or leave decision making to others, but this creates resentment and bitterness. The flip side of that is the sovereign, who takes full responsibility for her thoughts and actions. She takes responsibility for making her inner child's dream a reality, and she makes decisions with grace and commands respect. She's confident and has high self-esteem. Another shadow archetype is the victim, who often relinquishes power so that she doesn't have to be responsible for what happens next. She feels hard done by, taken advantage of, and is preoccupied with what is fair. She will avoid conflict almost at any cost because she doesn't want to stand up for herself. There's a lot of fear. Flip side to that is the warrior. The warrior is ready to stand firm for her dreams. She's reliable and resourceful. She's proactive and feels energized and motivated by life. She embodies decisive thinking and communicates her boundaries clearly. The final shadow archetype that I want to just introduce you to is the saboteur. And the saboteur does not like change and will resist at any cost. She's full of excuses about why she can't do something or move forward. Everything is a big deal, and her indecisiveness means she becomes stuck in life. The flip side to that is the magician. The magician takes radical responsibility in her life and takes steps forward because she trusts her innate knowledge that her path is right for her. She's not afraid to look like a fool or do something that doesn't make sense to others, as she trusts herself completely. So it's important to note here that nobody will ever be one single archetype all the time. There may be moments that you show up as the child or the saboteur, others when you're feeling like the victim. Sometimes archetypes may even overlap. But it's in these moments what is powerful is the knowledge and the understanding that you can shift your approach and show up instead as the illuminated lover, sovereign, magician, or warrior. How cool is that? You can absolutely take the control back. Now, when you're feeling overwhelmed, it's quite difficult to have the headspace to address these archetypes or to even have awareness of them. And so this is where the 3-step process is really useful. If you would like to pause at this point and have a look in your workbooks at the scenarios and examples that I have shared with you, and there's space for you to have a look at, explore your own experiences and see if you can pick out which archetypes might be at play in each of these, then you might find that useful. Once you've done that, come back to this video and we will look at the stop, look, adjust process in supporting you to feel less overwhelmed. We're back. The first step is stop. Pause and taking rectangular breaths to refocus yourself. So rectangular breaths mean inhaling on the short side of the rectangle and exhaling on the long side. When we are anxious, stressed, overwhelmed, etc., we tend to hold our breath. You might have noticed that your breathing becomes shallow, or you feel air hunger, your chest becomes tighter. You might even feel as though you are stepping back or away from what's going on around you and kind of closing down or shutting people out. And this step will help you to center and allow you to refocus. So having your wits about you is your best friend right now. It really is like lighting the quick on the firecracker of connection. So breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out. And just imagine that rectangle as you're doing that breath. And sometimes you might even feel that you need to do it for up to a minute. And you'll definitely feel a shift within you. The next step is look. Look around you and put out the fires. You know, what does that mean? Well, Are there any emergencies, any imminent dangers externally? If so, deal with them. Once that's all been managed and attended to, you have the opportunity to look inward. How are you feeling? What archetype is being played out? Can you identify? And this can be tough because you're already in a heightened state, but the breathing has recentered you and will help you to just stay focused on you, if nothing else. Or the most important thing in this moment is you and how you're feeling. Often how we feel is not something we really think about or consider until everything is all said and done. And making time for ourselves to actually reflect on what's going on around us and for us is really, really important. So perhaps you need to take another rectangular breath and just ask yourself, where am I coming from? Ask yourself, what do you choose? And in these everyday moments, sometimes we have to remind ourselves that the fight or flight we are feeling is not actually because of something that's life-threatening. And in reality, often it's our own expectations of how we feel we should deal with stresses that trips us up. So kick that out the door. There is no should, there is no ideal scenario. It's only you and what's happening and what you desire as an outcome, wherever that might be on your success scale. And hey, maybe you need to pop into another room for 5 minutes. Maybe you have to have a little shake. We hold so much in our physical bodies that actually just shaking it out can help us to just release and let go and move through the feelings of overwhelm and stress. Perhaps you need to let out a low guttural noise when we open our throats. That can be really, really freeing. Maybe splash some cold water on your face or give yourself a nice firm squeeze. Perhaps you need to step outside into the cold, fresh air. And just ask yourself, what am I doing? What am I thinking? And what am I telling myself? The next step is adjust. This is the doing bit. Ask yourself, what can I attend to and what can be left for later? Am I reacting? Is this a knee-jerk reaction? Or am I responding? Something that I've thought about and I am now acting upon. Sometimes things need to just be benched, and that's okay. The key is figuring out which to bench and which to make a priority. When it all gets too much, look for the smoothest path to regain a calm environment. And once that's achieved, address the rest in an established, calm manner. It's also really useful to pay close attention to the receptiveness of the other people that are around you, because the illuminated, lover, sovereign, warrior, magician all hold respect for themselves and their others. So, if you can, ask for help. There's no shame in this. Ask your partner to step in. Call that friend. Ask for more information. Be bold. And because with every task managed, you gain confidence and that overwhelm recedes. Believe me, the sense of paralysis that I have experienced from fear of doing something and then working through that and actually doing something just reminds you actually that what you can do it. And it's not that scary. And all of a sudden, this big feeling just starts to dissipate. So let's finish up with some results. Here's what's going to happen when you start using this method in your lives. And remember, it's not just in moments of overwhelm that this is a useful tool. You can use these 3 steps in moments of uncertainty, fear, any time really that you feel as though recentering your thoughts would help you to approach a situation from your illuminated archetype as opposed to your shadow archetype. When you begin to do this, you will begin to recognize your triggers, the things that send you over the edge, And instead of imagining worst case outcomes, you will begin to see the opportunity for positive and sometimes even unexpectedly joyous outcomes. You will quite literally rewire your thinking and reclaim that childlike joy in every moment. So go forth and illuminate your lives, and remember, you embody your power. Be empowered. Own it. Let me know how that goes for you. Send me an email. I'd love to hear how this has helped you today.